Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's Jerry Miller. Happy Friday to you, a frigid Friday in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We have a banging show planned for you, just a fantastic program with Sena Magill, our guest. She is running for Charlottesville City Council, and the whole entire platform or forum that we're trying to do is to feature the best of Charlottesville, Virginia. It's positive, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on thought leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, folks that are running for council. Yesterday we had Gerard Smith, who's running for Albemarle Board of Supervisors, on the program. The whole premise of the show is to spotlight the best of Charlottesville, Virginia, and the folks that are making an impact. And I think Sena Magill already has made an impact in Charlottesville, and we're not even at the June 11th primary yet. So we're going to put that impact into a positive spotlight. First, let's give some big-time love to the folks that make this show possible. I want to thank Sean and Roxanne Simmons of Greenberry's Coffee. About 28 years ago, a husband and wife team took a beat-up Honda Civic. They had a dream and some sweat equity. They opened up a roasting facility in the McIntyre Office Park and a shop in Barracks Road Shopping Center. Husband and wife, guys. The husband was roasting, the wife was at the shop, and they were grinding and they were getting stuff done. Today, it's a global business with locations in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Japan, soon to open in Portland, Oregon. It's the kind of stories that we celebrate on I Love CVille because they are the best of Charlottesville. Positive stories here on I Love CVille. Harris Tolber, our director, Judah Wickhauer, and Lauren Linsky, producers of the program. I think, Harris, let's give Scotty Wagner some big-time love, right? Dr. Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner, Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Who's got your back? Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine has your back. I've seen him take people walking into his practice that are feeling pain in their back, their lower body, their upper body, whatever it may be, and improve their quality of lives. It's Scott Wagner at Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. On that note, I think what we need to do, and you got some people on the stream, Sena Magill. You got some people on the stream. Let's go to the two-shot. Let's welcome Sena Magill to the program. She is running for Charlottesville City Council. I gain respect for her because, like so many people in Charlottesville, she's fighting a little bug, but she said, you know what? I gave Jerry my word. I'm going to go here, and we're going to talk about Charlottesville, Virginia. Thank you, Sena Magill.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. The show is yours. I throw you open-ended questions, and I would like for our viewers to get to know you. So the first question I think we got to ask is, who is Sena Magill, the person? What are her hobbies, her interests, her passions, her loves, what she likes to do with her spare time, what she likes to do with her non-spare time? Who are you?
Wow. Well, I would say probably first thing about me right now that is a priority to me is the fact that I'm a mother. I have a 10-year-old at Walker Upper Elementary School, and she's actually one of the main reasons that I decided to run for City Council. I want to show her that when you see a problem, you don't just complain about it, you do your best to try to help fix it, to be part of the solution. And let's see, I worked in mental health for many years. I worked in homelessness. I've owned a business on the downtown mall for many years at the same time. I read a lot, mostly science fiction fantasy. It's kind of my getaway. Worked in local restaurants quite a bit and really love people. That's why I went into psychology to begin with. It was this beautiful blend of philosophy and biology, and it was a way to help people.
That was a great answer. I think we need to sizzle reel your first answer. That was a highlight, baby. Let's highlight and sizzle reel that. That was so authentic and genuine. And you know, I got so many questions I got to ask you just from that. First, as the entrepreneur, you mentioned you own a business on the downtown mall. Which one? Tell us about it.
Well, it used to be called Antics.
Okay.
And now my husband and I do a partnership. We sell through Low Vintage on the downtown mall, and we do the records, the LPs, under Hatpin Dolly Vintage. It's just a very small. We couldn't keep it up as time went on.
Sure.
I was planning originally, actually, about a year. I went to let me back up a little bit. I actually graduated from the Community Investment Collaborative's entrepreneurship course a couple of years ago.
Awesome.
And I really cannot recommend that enough.
Awesome.
To anybody who's thinking about going into business or who hasn't their own business. What it also taught me was when to also step back and say, okay, it's time to cut your losses too.
Sure. That's hard.
It is. I was planning on opening an Amazon prep center.
Okay.
But when my husband got hurt, August 2017, it kind of derailed that. And by the time I was able to relook at that and think about putting the time into opening a business, multiple other prep centers had opened up in Virginia, and the competition just was too much.
Crowded space.
Yeah.
A lot I want to cover. Judah, what I'd like for you to do is check the CVille Food and I Love CVille channels. The streaming looking good over there. Give me an A-OK on that, please. Harris, we sounding good behind the board. Thank you, sir. I love the fact that you have been an entrepreneur and a businesswoman and a business owner. And I think that's something that, strategically perhaps emphasize more with the campaign, because you have both sides of perspective through volunteer work, through helping the homelessness, I believe through your time at Region 10, and also the entrepreneur and small business side. Because one of the topics that's often discussed with current council is perhaps they are not as accommodating with economic growth and small business owners, and perhaps more focused on social justice as opposed to improving or fostering or supporting the small business owners in our community. So let's first talk about the entrepreneurial side, the business side, what you've learned as a small business owner in Charlottesville. I mean, what I've learned is it's freaking hard. It's so hard. What I've learned is every single day is a different day. What I've learned is I constantly am putting out fires. What I've learned is I'm lucky to have team members like Harris and Judah and Lauren and the crew make us look good and sound good and offer their intellect and their human capital and their genius to bolster the brand. What did you learn in your time as an entrepreneur and a small business owner?
That it's incredibly hard, that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. There was many years tax-wise that probably my husband and I really should have been considered, we were on that edge of being a hobby. Yeah. As far as what, the IRS would consider us to be. Because there was definitely years we lost money. The juggling of the stock, the time, the trying just to make ends meet on it is, the every year of debating, is this really something we want to keep doing or not? Which is why we ended up just going into the records. And I still have a truckload of vintage stock and a shed full of vintage stock I'm sitting on because
Because you had to buy in bulk to get a lower price point.
I bought over 15 years.
Yeah.
And you pick up things as you go. You have to have a certain amount of stock in the store. You have an order for people to come in. You can't just have 3 or 4 items or no one's going to walk in the door. If everyone figured out the genius behind what's going to sell within a few days, everyone would be on that.
Right.
So I had, a lot of long tail items that didn't end up selling. And that's just, again, you have a lot tied up that's not liquid. You might, on paper, look like you have a significant amount of money, but really most of it's tied up in various items.
And I can relate to that. So we have the I Love CVille trademark. And the I Love CVille trademark, I try to put it on as much merchandise as possible, along with being, landlord and a building owner and doing this digital media and the advertising agency. We sell retail items in our community. I had to buy 750 T-shirts to get the price under $6. And I have like 300 of them sitting in our storage closet at home. And my wife is like, Jerry, do a fire sale, dude. I need some space to store Trey, our son's baby belongings. Let's get this product moving. So what I'm saying is I could totally relate to it.
Yeah.
How about the dynamic and husband and wife team here in this small business? How about the dynamic with you guys?
Well, Tyler does mostly the records now. Okay. And I've been backing out of all of it except for doing the tax piece and the numbers piece. He always specialized in the LPs, and I did all the other stuff.
Got it.
Because it was fascinating for me to learn. I love learning. And, excuse me.
Sure.
Learning about history, and each item in vintage is a piece of history. You've got these, each item tells a different story. And it's also a story of our history in general. You know, you can look at a piece of Art Deco furniture and trace the lines and see the influence from the 1920s, and as we are looking at different shifts and movements, and it comes out in style. And then you look at like arts and crafts movements, which is where you look at people returning back from that industrial to looking at more handmade and enjoying the beauty of something that's individual.
Love it. Love it. I love it. I love that you got both sides. I love that you see it from the small business side. I love that you had some tribulations, trials and tribulations, and I love the support that you're offering from a homelessness side. I love the support that you're offering from a Region 10 side. You're getting a lot of props here. Kimberly Louder. She says, I'm listening, Sena. Go, Sena, go. Kimberly Louder giving you some big-time props on the program. Guys, like and share this stream for us. All we're trying to do is put Charlottesville in a positive spotlight and introduce you to a candidate that's running for Charlottesville City Council. James Watson, thank you for watching the program. Lauren, David Caron, Sarah Hill-Buczynski, Jay Wyatt, thank you for watching the program. John Gilmore, thank you for sharing the program. We're grateful for you. How about how you started with the show? You said, my daughter, did you say she's at Walker? She
is actually, Kim Waters' son and my daughter have been together since they were at Barrett together.
Get out of town.
And Kim and I both joined the Barrett board when Barrett was going to be going under a number of years ago.
That's the school there on Ridge, right
Barrett
there?
Preschool, yeah.
Barrett Preschool. So put that in perspective, because that is a Charlottesville institution.
It is.
And they have had financial difficulties, that's safe to say. And
not so much now. We had, so what happened was, you know, as any nonprofit, the board had been there for a very long time. And they had been trying to support the school, and they even said that they weren't the best for fundraising. That wasn't their strength as a board. But it's hard to get people to volunteer to be on boards for nonprofits. It doesn't pay. It takes a lot of time out of your life. And so Barrett was looking at having to close. And Barrett was the oldest preschool in the state of Virginia. And it's a wonderful, amazing, affordable preschool for our community. And I was very proud to have my daughter go there. And so when we heard it was going to be closing and our children were going to be the last graduating class, I know Kim jumped on board. I did as well. I ended up being the vice president of the board and working with Hodari Hamilton and Burdell Fleming and Dee Dee Smith and Jan, whose last name I cannot remember, and a lot of people. Ms. Pointer, Marie Bell, who all came in. There was a lot of people from the community who came together and said, we're not going to let this happen. And we worked for fundraising and to take part in kind of restructuring. Dee Dee Smith worked very hard on working on a capital improvements, and the CDBG fund, CBDG, I forgive the acronyms also, the cold medicine is kind of messing with me a little bit. But a lot of people worked really hard to pull together their community experience and to work together. And let's see, Aaron Burns was part of it, and Lauren, and a lot of people, and who I know I'm forgetting more people, and I apologize.
You're giving props to people. I see how this is hitting close to home. You're getting a little emotional about it. I love it. I love the emotion.
It's a good school. It's what our community needs. We need affordable childcare. I mean, that's part of social justice. We need I mean, we could not, at the time, we needed Barrett, aside from the fact that it was a good school and we were very happy for our daughter to go there, but childcare is ridiculous. And Barrett was a very affordable and, like I said, a very good school. It's, you know, they have the Book Buddies program comes in. They have this massive backyard and they do a lot of outdoor playing, which I feel is really important to children. I don't sometimes feel that we get enough of that with kids, the running around.
Totally agree, especially with the ubiquitous nature of smartphones and social media and technology. My 10-month-old craves screen interaction, and it's terrifying to me because my parents limited us from having video games, literally could not have video games, no video game consoles. They said, here's a soccer ball, here's a bicycle, here's a baseball bat and a glove, go outside and play and come back at dusk so you're in time for dinner. And we did not play with technology. And I see it both ways because it's like, you know, technology is not the future, it's the present. And the folks that really embrace technology, whether it's Joffrey Woodruff's $125 million donation to the University of Virginia for a data science school. I mean, the people that are embracing technology are the ones that are getting ahead. But it's so interesting from a parent standpoint of how you balance it. Like, do I give my son time on this iPhone or an iPad so he gets to know how to use it? And is it at the detriment of him potentially reading a book or doing some human interaction with other babies? I'm such a rookie at this, and my wife is such a rookie at this. We're 10 months into it. We're just going day by day and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, if anyone had the magic bullet on that,
right.
They'd be rich.
You got questions already coming in here. Let me throw this to you here. Questions already coming in. Someone wants to know about your platform. They want you to put, what do you stand for? What are your platform? What's important to you in the city council race?
Well, there's a lot that's important to me. Affordable housing is something that's incredibly important to me. And I saw this when I was working at Region 10, so there was affordable housing for the clients that I worked with or the consumers that I worked with, which is people who are having to live on Social Security disability, which at the time was less than $700 a month. But also my staff who worked at Region 10 most of them were unable to live in Charlottesville. We have many nurses who are unable to afford to live in Charlottesville. Our city employees who are unable to afford to live in Charlottesville. This has got to be addressed. And I also think there's no one solution to all of this. It's something we have to look at from multiple different angles. I also think we need to do what we can as far as climate change goes. Yes, this is a global problem, and much of climate change is going to be addressed at a national or global level. However, we can still take action on a local level. You know, the old bumper sticker, you know, think globally, act locally.
Sure.
By putting solar panels on the roofs of municipal buildings, by talking to Segura Solar and Alt Energy and Apex Wind Energy and finding out what we can do locally with them, as well as divesting from our fossil fuel portfolio as best as we can. There's local company who specializes in socially responsible investing, and we can easily divest from that.
Good answer right there. Sizzle reel that. Call it what she stands for the sizzle reel. You have some props coming in. Let's thank the folks for watching. Aaron Richardson, who is the city editor at the Daily Progress, is watching the show right now. You have folks from NBC 29 and CBS 19 watching you as well. We have Peyton Alley watching right now. Bart Isley, the publisher of Scrimmage Play, thank you for watching. Andre Xavier, thank you for watching. April Dent Ward, thank you for sharing the feed. James Watson, I love you, baby. Thank you for watching the program. Big J. Wyant and Sarah Hill Buchensky, thank you for watching the show. Savannah Thompson says, thank you, Sena, for all your work to help our community. You are a rock star. We have one gentleman that is respectfully disagreeing with you, but that's fine. He says, even though I disagree politically with what I've heard so far from Sena, I respect what she's said so far, and it's a shame that people can't have these conversations even more. And I think he's hit what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to just have the discussion and not be afraid of the discussion, have the discussion in the ecosystem, and allow folks and listeners and viewers to become more educated about things that are going on in Charlottesville. And then because they're more educated, then they are able to make a more informed decision. That's the entire concept of what we're trying to do here with this program. You talk about the affordable housing piece. Interestingly, it still remains in the news with Charlottesville raising its considering a raise of its real estate taxes. I just got the notifications from the city assessor in the mail. It's tough because as a majority owner here of this building, the raised city taxes are going to either be covered by me or passed along to my tenants. My property in Albemarle County has jumped 7% in real estate taxes. That's where I live, my home. Open-ended question to you. If real estate taxes continue to go up, Albemarle County up 7%, City of Charlottesville considering it now because the next fiscal year we have a $6 million deficit with the budget. How can affordable housing be affordable if the real estate taxes are increased? It seems to be counterintuitive. Your thoughts? Tough question, Sena.
It's a very tough question. And it's one in general that I'm trying to learn as much as I can about. Affordable, there's no magic affordable housing seeds that we can just plant and have it happen. We have to have revenue for the city.
Yep.
As well as we also have to have places in the city for people to live, who live here. I think one way to get revenue is by doing what we can to increase tourism, because that is a kind of a net zero source of revenue.
Right. And what she basically means by that is tourists come to Charlottesville or Central Virginia. They come with tremendous disposable income. Take the wedding industry as a perfect example. You may have a rehearsal dinner on a Friday night. You're going to spend money at the rehearsal dinner, then you're going to go to the bars afterwards. You're going to rent a hotel room, then you're going to go to the wedding on Saturday night. Before you go to the wedding on Saturday night, you may hit the farmer's market, you may go to breakfast, you may go to lunch or brunch, you're going to spend some money, and then you're going to freaking leave. You're going to get out of Dodge. And those are the best kind, in a lot of ways, of folks that are integrating money into our community because they're not taxing our resources, roads, schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, infrastructure. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's okay. Yeah. Thank you for, I appreciate the clarification. I just make it the approachable way.
Yes.
Yeah. So we need to be definitely doing what we can to support that. I'm not saying that we need to do that in place of supporting affordable housing. But we have to have the income to support the affordable housing. And looking at cities like Pasadena and Boulder, and there was a not Salt Lake City, but there was a city in Utah that presented at the Tom Tom Festival Affordable Housing Summit last year. And again, it was a very high tourist city, and they're facing a lot of the same problems we are. This is not a problem that only Charlottesville is facing.
Sure.
This is a problem nationwide.
Sure.
And I think we also need to be looking at some European cities and what they've been doing, because they've been facing these problems a lot longer than we have. And what are the answers that they're coming up with? Again, I also know it's different. They have different political structures. They have different rules that they're restricted by, or we have the Dillon rule that restricts us a lot in what we can and can't do as far as taxation or different revenue streams coming in like that. And again, I'm learning.
Sure.
And I am so open to people contacting me and giving me their opinions and what knowledge they have and what solutions they see. I really would love to hear from people about that, because I don't know the answers. And I know there's a lot of people who've spent a lot more time thinking about this and trying to solve this than I have. and I'd like to hear from their experience.
I love that. I love that you're open-minded to ideas. I love that answer right there. You're getting props on the program. Ray Cadell, thank you for joining us on the show. Teresa Davis, you see Patty Bowden right there? Teresa Davis, that right there, thanks to Front Runner Signs. Patty Bowden of Animal Connection. That's Liza the dog, who you just met right there. She loves animals. I could tell that she loves animals right there. No. Josh Hill, thank you for joining us. Bobby Kirby, thank you for joining us. April, thank you for sharing the feed. Like and share this stream. Sarah Humphrey for Fellinis, thank you for joining us in the program and liking the feed. Like and share the stream and put the positive spotlight on Charlottesville and Central Virginia. How about what you said about your daughter, where you said, I wanted to show my daughter that I can make an impact and I can make a difference. And you said that she was a motivational factor for you to run for city council. Put that in perspective for me.
Well, this was something I've wanted to do for a while. However, we couldn't afford for me to
not work,
take off the work,
right.
Or the jobs I had in the past usually had an on-call component. I couldn't commit to the 4 years of $17,000 a year. And with the jobs that I had, they would have not allowed me to really be a part-time employee, even though one of them technically I was part-time. So I put this on the back burner. In August of 2017, my husband was hurt, and we then, a GoFundMe happened that helped us with his medical bills and also put a little bit aside so that we were able to sit back and say, okay, what can we do? Can we afford for me to look for a part-time job and then run for city council? So we talked about that once I'd kind of given up on the opening the prep center. In that time, I ended up caring for his mother, who passed away this summer. And she then left him some money that allowed us to say, okay, I can run for city council and don't have to have another job. Regretfully, when you have a $17,000 a year position, you have to take into account a 4-year commitment to not making a living wage.
Yeah. Right. These guys, ladies and gentlemen, the city councilors are working 40, 60 hours a week, and the councilors make $18,000. The mayor makes $20,000. So it's interesting in that the people that are pretty much determining the future and dictating the pace and tempo of where the city of Charlottesville is going are being paid below living wage. That right there I find incredibly perplexing and absolutely needs to change.
Well, and that's something that the state legislature has to approve.
Right. Right.
That's the Dillon Law in action.
Right, and for that to happen, an amendment to the city charter has to happen. And the state legislator is so hesitant to allow city council to make this amendment to the city charter because the state legislators are saying that could potentially open up a Pandora's box that could lead to other changes of the city charter. I see both sides of the coin. I truly, truly do. Your thoughts?
I think the Dillon Rule was originally enacted to combat localities that were corrupt. That is at least the present-day theory on that. We can't know for certain what happened in people's minds in the 1800s because that was too long ago.
Right.
But today, the Dillon Rule is still kept in action because of the fear of localities and corruption.
Sure.
So instead of asking for an open-ended, I believe that we should tie something to AMI. That way, when other localities see Charlottesville saying, hey, we've gotten passed through the General Assembly to increase our wages, if you set it AMI, like 50% AMI, that's translatable to the various localities as well. And also means that you're making the amount for that area that should be a livable income. So that's my take on that. I really believe that council should be allowed to make more money because that opens the field up to people of different backgrounds to lead their expertise and their insight, and doesn't preclude people who couldn't run because of financial reasons.
Right, and a lot of folks feel that the folks that are able to run for council now, based on the $18,000 and $20,000 compensation packages, are folks that are retirees or independently wealthy, and it's skewed to people that have economic, affluence, that have means, because the council spots pay such little money. And I think that's a fair point. Let's thank some people for watching right now and for sharing the feed. You have a lot of friends. I see that already. Rob Lawson, Rick Henderson, Michael Jameson, Jeremy Stanwyck, Jonathan Galasso, Dan Bards, Meg Taylor, John Gilmore, Chris Turner. Thank you for watching this program. We appreciate you liking and sharing the stream. One of your friends named, I think, Sena Floyd. Sena Floyd is watching the program.
That's
and says,
me.
"Oh, it's you right there." Your last name is Floyd, not McGill, on your page right there.
That's because my husband had some death threats.
Oh, there. Okay, we don't need to get into that. Dawn Bancroft fra Polo. Good job, Sena. XOXOXOXO. We do have a question from the chat box that I don't know much about. So if this question's not a fair question, we don't have to hit it. But I want to throw it to you regardless. Sena recently condemned the reported, is it Josie Smollett hate crime on her campaign page? I'm wondering if it is found to be false. Will she issue a retraction? Do we know anything about what that question is?
There was a national news article, and actually somebody else posted that for me on my page. I have been sick for the last 3 or 4 days since Tuesday morning.
We'll bring it back to Charlottesville.
No, if there is something that is found to be false, I will happily post a retraction. I'm not trying to be sensationalist.
Right.
There was a gentleman I know in another state who was attacked, and it was said to be possibly a hate crime. I know they've been struggling to find details on that. And yes, if it is, I would happily be posting a retraction.
There you go. Fair, honest answer here. Let's talk about, I'm not trying to harp on the national stuff. I'm trying to harp on the local stuff. Let's talk about some of the struggles you guys have overcome personally. You said your husband was injured?
Yes, my husband's Tyler Magill.
Okay.
He was hurt on August 11th of 2017 in the Torch March on the university campus.
Right.
His carotid artery was torn, and he then suffered a stroke 4 days later.
You guys have overcome, or working on overcoming, this particular circumstance that has undoubtedly been in the national news. What have you learned as a husband and wife, as a mom and dad, as a family unit? Something that perhaps that I can apply and learn from you. Because life, for lack of better phrase, throws a lot of shit at you.
I was going to say, strokes suck.
Yeah, right. Throws a lot of shit at you, and it's how we respond to that that truly determines like our character and who we are as people. What have you learned?
Anger can be energizing. You have to be careful. It can also turn poisonous, but it can be a very positive motivating factor. You face each day. It's pretty, you take one step each day, and you get through it, and it gets better. And sometimes things will be bad, and that's okay. You just keep taking that next step. And you reach out to your friends, and you reach out to your support network. That's when I worked in homelessness. That was the one common thread I found with those who were homeless, was their support networks had been severely damaged for one reason or another, or they didn't have a big support network to begin with. There was people in the shelter who had master's degrees, who'd come from very affluent families, but for one reason or another, they had lost their support networks. And I know that my support network is what helped get me through and get my family through when Tyler was hurt.
We are streaming, guys, on CVille Food and I Love CVille now, along with my Facebook page. So we've added 3 channels to this program to increase the network. I was Frontlines August 12, 2017. I wanted to see what was going to happen. You know, I knew that this was going to be potentially something that's going to be in history books that my son or daughter, I only have a son now, but if the family grows, that my kids would read. I also was concerned about the building and, you know, the protection of the building. We're very exposed here. On top of that, we have I Love CVille on the building, and for some reason that really upset people. So I was here August 12th. Your husband was there August 11th on grounds at the university. We followed his story closely. Did you say anything to him beforehand? Don't go? My wife said to me straight up, do not go. I said, sweetheart, I love you so much, and I know it's coming from a good place. You're the best woman I know, but I have to go because I have to see this, because this is the city I love so much. Is it similar with Tyler in that he loves UVA so much and this town so much?
Well, I was actually out of town. We had known it was going to be bad, so...
You left?
There was, one of us got our child out of town, and that was me. He had promised he was going to be careful, but Friday when he found out what was going on, he couldn't leave those kids up there. Sorry, this kind of... I'm very proud of him.
You should be.
Because if it had been my kid up there, I would want somebody like him to go.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I am getting, your emotion is coming to me because it's clear that you guys are an incredible family unit and you have tremendous love for this man. And I think anyone that's willing to put his or herself in harm's way for individuals that perhaps do not know the magnitude of what's happening are the type of people that we need more of. And it sounds like we need a heck of a lot more Tyler McGills out there.
I think so.
How you guys, talk to me about today. Talk to me about you guys now getting better.
Yeah, I mean, he's got there's some, leftovers.
Yeah.
But that's his business to talk about.
Understood. I totally get it. I totally get it.
Where regretfully we had to put one of our cats down yesterday, and that's triggering my daughter, who is still dealing with things. She has told me I have permission to say that she utilizes Ready Kids, a local therapy area. And we were lucky to we had been trying to get her into therapy for quite a while, and we were lucky that they were able to see her. So today, I mean, we're still impacted. And this was one of my final factors of saying, no, I want to be part of this. I want to make sure that I want to be part of making sure that something like this doesn't happen again. As much as City Council can make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Right. City Council is not nearly as powerful as a
people
lot
think.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
But we do, I mean, there is some power, and I would highly encourage anyone who has the time and energy to join one of the local boards through the city, because those boards are incredibly important to the running of our government. So much of the decision-making is done in the smaller boards because City Council is a part-time job, and they have to rely upon the reports and the work of the Planning Commission and the Sister Cities Board and the HAC Committee and all of them. There are so many of them, the bike and pedestrian committees, and these boards are so important to the running of our city that if you want to make a difference, that is a place you can really start engaging in.
Good answer right there. A lot of people watching. Don Gathers, who's considering running for City Council. Don Gathers, thank you for watching the program. We hope your health is better, Don Gathers. And Don, you have an open invitation, sir, to join us here on this program to spotlight your platform should you choose to get back in the race. Grace Australia says, Sena, your emotion and your raw, she says your raw emotion is endearing. I did not know who you are, but what I'm seeing today makes me like you. Thank you, Grace, for sharing your perspective there. You mentioned that you want to do your part to help the city. Where are you seeing perhaps current council maybe dropping the ball or not living up to expectations or not doing what they should to make the town that all of us love?
I'm not going to judge current council. I'm not in their shoes.
Okay. What would you do differently? How's that? That's a fair question.
There are a lot of pieces that until you are there, you don't see.
That's fair.
And I don't know what I would do differently, honestly, until I can see all the different pieces. I would... Again, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't. I don't have enough information.
Well, what it comes down to is like, you are such a good-hearted person. You're so hesitant to say anything that could be potentially construed as negative, even if it's truly constructive criticism. That's the vibe I'm gathering from you. Is that fair?
No, I will engage in constructive criticism. I just feel like I truly need to understand the pieces before I commit to something.
Okay.
I'm going to use the Landmark Hotel, and this might be a very hot button topic that I might totally get myself into trouble on this.
Okay.
I was definitely in the whole camp of, condemn the Landmark, pull it down. This isn't right that this has been happening. But I've been trying to learn more and more about it and what has been going on. And it's a lot more complicated than what originally came out, or at least what I read about. That Dewberry cannot get the financing he needs without the parking spaces.
That's right.
If we condemned the hotel, that means the city has to buy the hotel at fair market value,
Which is like $6 million, and then the city's in the hotel business,
and then the city either has to fix the hotel or destroy the hotel,
or sell it to somebody.
Which then means it is just an albatross around our necks. Meanwhile, if we worked with Dewberry, we could potentially have that income coming in to do something like set it aside for affordable housing. It's a much more complex process than it originally came out, is my original understanding of it was.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from doing this show, from sitting next to influencers and thought leaders and people making an impact like you in our community. We had Rory Stolzenberg, who is the planning commissioner, on the show. And he pretty much talked about, Dewberry is paying the city $66,000 a year in straight up taxes for the skeleton of a hotel. He is of the mindset that let's let this guy continue to urinate away $66,000 and not allow him to extort the city. Because John Dewberry, who is the emperor of empty lots, according to Bloomberg magazine, I've taken it a step further and called him the extorting emperor of empty lots. And his entire business model, as you know, Sena, is leave hideous or empty properties in very prominent locations of cities, to the point where the municipality feels compelled to offer obscene tax breaks to him, and then he starts developing. It's a strategy.
Yeah.
This seems to be a guy that we do not want to be doing business with as a municipality, just from the layman's perspective. I'm going to throw open-ended to you. Your thoughts on all this?
Again, this would be something that I would seriously need. I don't like the idea of being held hostage.
Right, and that's what he's doing.
By somebody, but at the same time, you also have to look at the cost-benefit analysis of what we can get out of it as a city. How much would it cost in the long run? How much would it provide for us in the long run? And it would need to be looked at as, honestly, taking the emotion out of it and as a straight-up business decision. And I don't have all of that information at the time to look at that. My gut says I don't like this. I don't like being pushed into a corner. I don't like being forced. But at the same time, if I was on city council, I would need to be looking at the welfare of the city as a whole.
That's a good answer. Let's sizzle reel that. Can we sizzle reel that? Because I think that was on point right there. Sizzle reel, we'll call that Sena on Dewberry, Harris. You have already filled 50 minutes.
Oh, good.
You're doing very, very well. Let's talk about specifics with your platform. You've said affordable housing is important to you. You've said offering support, aid, vision, guidance to our homeless population is clearly very important to you. It's your background. I liked how you led the program by offering the anecdote of you and your husband as the small business owners. Because I think, whether it's strategic or authentic, spending 50 minutes from you, I know it's absolutely authentic. You understand that having that small business mindset is very, very important to so many people in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. How about the relationship between the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County? It is a touchy relationship. I think that's safe to say.
It's getting better, though.
Okay.
Look at the most recent joint project.
It was keeping the courts downtown.
Yeah. We can't. Charlottesville's surrounded by Albemarle County. We have to work together. And when I was a renter, I didn't know if I lived in the city or the county until I went to go vote.
Right.
Or until I went to go pay my water or utility bills. So to think that we can somehow keep ourselves separate, the whole area we work together. I grew up in Nelson County. We moved here in 1978.
You grew up in Nelson County? Nelson County Governor?
What?
Nelson County Governors? The high school? The Governors is the mascot, right?
I went to Tandem, actually.
Oh, you went to Tandem. Okay,
before
gotcha.
it was a friend's school.
Okay.
Yeah, and then PVCC and UVA.
Okay.
But no, I actually grew up at Shannon Farm out in Nelson County, which is an intentional community out there.
Okay.
And we came in and did our laundry at City Laundry on Preston Avenue when I was a kid, or we went to, I went to birthday parties at Skate Town, or I think we actually might be in the old UVI. No, UVI was a little bit further down.
A little further down.
Yeah. That's
this
where
used to be, the Macklin building used to be Macklin Auto. And Henry Macklin in 1982 got tired of being in the automotive business. And these two bays, these courtyards, where the cars pulled into here, and these were the bays, the shops for people to get the car repaired on, and then they pulled out of the back building into the alley between us and the downtown mall.
I remember that.
Macklin Auto. And then 1982, Henry Macklin said, let me get out of the automobile business and build a mixed-use building. Third floor is penthouse condos that start at $500,000. First and second floor are commercial office spaces. And it's just a fantastic building. You have many questions coming in.
Oh, okay.
One of the questions is from Savannah Thompson.
Okay.
And she says, in my view, all new housing development in this town should have units set aside for affordable housing. We are way behind, in my view, on keeping hourly and lower wage workers in the city. Sena, what would you do about this? Would you get tough with local developers on this? Please offer your perspective. Savannah Thompson. Give her some props on that question.
Savannah's
right there.
awesome.
Yeah. Ball's in your court.
I don't know what we can do on that legally, too. Again, I don't know enough about whether or not we can require that. Again, Dillon Rule really affects a lot of things that we can do. I've had some ideas about accessory dwelling units and streamlining the accessory dwelling unit process. There is also right now, the way our zoning code is structured, from what I understand, and again, I am learning a great deal about this. And there's a lot of people who know a lot more, and if I am wrong on something, I apologize.
And I think they'll probably correct you, because you have planning commissioners watching as we speak.
But I would love to see something streamlining an accessory dwelling unit process where 4 or 5 plans went through all the various committees and were approved, regardless of where you lived. The BAR, just all the committees that it needs to go through, so that when somebody wanted to put in an accessory dwelling unit in their backyard, they could go do that very easily. And then possibly look at something like we did with the Solarize program, where people were able to get a $10,000 interest-free loan to make energy efficient improvements on their home. Doing this, saying, if, again, legally, I don't know if we can or if we can write something or not, where we could offer that, saying, if you promise to keep the rental unit within this range of AMI, a percentage of, using like the HUD, affordable housing guideline, if you promise to rent in that area, that you have access to this loan. I would like to incentivize, because another thing that I'm seeing from what I am hearing is the zoning code that we currently have really makes it difficult for small developers to make affordable housing units.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the process is so time-consuming and
bureaucratic and arduous and jump through hoops. It's a 2-year process.
It actually starts costing the developers quite a bit and makes affordable housing units difficult for them to actually do.
That's totally right.
I really would like to talk to some of the small developers, because I've talked to a few in the past about how they really do want. I mean, a lot of the small developers live here in this community, and they want to start doing things that are positive for the community. And most of them aren't trying to make a gazillion dollars off of something. They do have to also feed their families too.
Right.
I think we should be working with the developers. I also think, we need to be setting the example, and it might mean that the city has to get into the real estate business. I don't know.
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
We might need to
start buying up properties?
Buy up some properties and convert them into condos for sale or rental units that are at a fixed rate. I don't know.
The tough part about that, and let's take an area like Friendship Court. Mm-hmm. Okay. The tough part about municipalities being in the real estate ownership business is, and I'm spitballing with you, playing devil's advocate, is on paper it makes sense. But then the city then has to become the folks that upkeep the property. Mm-hmm. They have to maintain the property. They have to make sure that the residents are happy. They become property managers. Mm-hmm. And then that creates perhaps more, for lack of a better phrase, fat on the payroll, because we need to bring in personnel with taxpayer dollars to man these positions. I think that could be, playing devil's advocate for the sake of the program, potentially a slippery slope.
It could be. However, things like supported housing are very needed. And we have one prime example of supported housing here at the Crossings.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Which has done an excellent job. Virginia Supportive Housing is and would also make a good partner, potentially. So I think we need to be looking into partnerships.
So you like the private-public partnership that we're seeing with Core and Capshaw, with Riverbend Development, in the city of Charlottesville, and what they're doing at Crescent Halls?
I don't know enough about it yet
to
say if I like it or not.
Okay.
I like the idea.
Okay.
I like that Core and Capshaw is giving back. It doesn't surprise me. He and the Dave Matthews Band have given back a lot to this community when they didn't have to.
They certainly have.
And people could say, oh, yes, well, they got a lot from the community, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? They still didn't have to. Yeah. And they did.
Yeah,
and they have.
Right, and I have no problem. I'm curious of how you stand on this. It's in some ways, becoming, a business owner or an entrepreneur and being focused on driving revenue has almost become taboo. It's like, oh, this guy's so focused on just making money and making his business. And I'm like, well, that's how I pay my team members and give them 8% raises every year. And that's how they then go and buy homes themselves and spend the money in the community. It creates this incredible domino effect. And I straight up say on this program all the time that I am a conscious capitalist or a social entrepreneur. I run a for-profit business that is undoubtedly focused on driving incremental revenue, but we're doing it in a way where we're leaving Charlottesville, Virginia in a better spot than when I first arrived in 2000. That's the entire mission of the business. leave Charlottesville in a better spot than when I first got here to attend UVA in 2000. And we're doing that. One of the ways we're doing it is through giving $114,000 to charity in 11 years. One of the ways we're really doing it is through this talk show. The labor and the time and the human capital that goes into putting on a talk show Monday through Friday for an hour and change is tremendous. I'm curious of your thoughts on it's almost a stigma that's been positioned on folks that are focused on driving revenue and making their businesses great. What do you think, Sena?
Well, I think sometimes it's because, large corporations have taken the humanity out of working for them. They've turned people into numbers. And I think the more we get back into the small businesses, the better our communities will be in general. I think that has a lot to do with the growth of the alt-right, and large corporations keep doing that push away from treating people as human beings. Look at the whole expose that was coming out about Walmart. How many people who work at Walmart are also needing to receive food stamps? So the more small businesses we have, the better our local economy is, because more small businesses do pay a better. You pay somebody you're at church with. When your children are in school together, there is a social construct there that puts you in a position, if your child goes to school with your employee's child and your employee's child can't afford, is on the school lunch program because you're not paying your employee enough.
I sizzle reel that, and she's so right. And Judah, I hope you're listening to this. I would do just about anything humanly possible for that man over there, for Harris, for Lauren. I've told him so many times, and I've told my team so many times, if you ever get in trouble, the first call you make is to me, and I will be there no matter what, and I will help you solve whatever trouble you are in, and use my connections to help solve that trouble. I completely agree. The small businesses in our community are in a lot of ways the backbone of the community, because the small businesses in the community are the ones that have the face times with their team members, and that relationship that's built through that face time of 70 to 80 hours a week, which is the hours I'm working each week, builds a fraternity, a sorority, a brotherhood, a sisterhood. And it builds a camaraderie that's not seen perhaps in publicly traded companies, where the employee is nothing but a number and someone that's replaceable.
Right.
And I love that that's what you stand for. And I think that's something, as a layman, that you should emphasize more.
I think that's part of social justice. Social justice is a large incorporation. But we do have a civic duty, I feel, to all of our members of our society. That's what makes a civilization, is when how you treat the people in your society who are at their worst, in their worst part of their lives. That is what civilized is. And so we do have a community duty to take care of all of our members. But I don't think that means at the same time excluding the well-being of our local businesses either. I don't think that these are they're exclusive of one another.
You're saying they're not mutually exclusive. They can
think
go
we
hand in
can
hand.
be working all together on this.
Interesting topic right there. Ron Gantz, thank you for watching us. Willem Nielsen, thank you for watching us. Michael Guthrie, thank you for watching us. Laura Jackson, thank you for watching us. Dawn Bancroft Frappolo, thank you for watching us. They're watching us on our I Love CVille channel. CVille Food channel is doing well, as opposed to, as is the Jerry Miller channel. Would you like some? You're good on fluids? Would you like some?
I would probably need a little bit of water.
Okay,
please.
Judah, will you help her with some water, please? Thank you so much, Judah Wickhauer. I appreciate you coming here and doing this. You can come on set, Judah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, sir. A lot of topics I need to get to, and we've already filled an hour.
Okay.
You're very pleasant to talk with.
Thank you.
How about hot topics I got to throw to you, okay?
Okay.
City police indicating that they feel disenchanted or disenfranchised or not feeling like they're part of the team. City police experiencing tremendous attrition within the department. Open-ended topic. Your thoughts on the attrition with the CPD?
My thoughts on the attrition, I honestly believe it has more to do with the payment. This attrition is not new. I also think we need to have a much broader community engagement with our police. I really miss the horses. I really felt that when we had horse police that came through the neighborhood on the horses, I think that was a very good community engagement. You engage with animals, you bring that together. It
humanizes them.
Yes, and I think it's worth the investment.
Yeah, and I agree. When we see the officer on the beat, and we get to know the officer on the beat from a day-to-day standpoint, it takes the officer from just being a badge and someone in power to someone that's an actual human being that puts his or her pants on one leg at a time. And that's kind of what you're saying.
It is. I do also think we need to have, I think police departments throughout the country need to make sure that they're being educated for racial bias. It's a very real thing. We can't ignore it. I'm not saying that the police are doing this this is an intentional thing by any means.
You get some props there, aren't you?
Oh, that's a text.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're getting some props on that text message because it's coming in over here. Paul Stevenson, thank you for joining us on the program. So you think how you solve the program, how you solve this particular issue is potentially increase the wage for our CPD, for our officers?
I think I think increasing wage is part of it. I also think we need to be looking, Pasadena or Boulder has a program for their city workers that helps alleviate some of the housing costs. I know that there is the officers program, a loan program for officers like there is for teachers. But we need to be making sure that officers can live in the area and that it's affordable for them. Just the same as we need for teachers and nurses, firefighters, and city employees, our nonprofit employees. Again, this all kind of comes back to affordable housing,
of course,
and economic stability in our area.
Right. It's so crazy how it's so crazy.
And
how
also
it all
childcare.
comes out to affordable housing.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
If you're first, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can't look at anything else until your shelter and food are stabilized. And until food and shelter are stabilized, you're not going to look at anything else in your growth, in your personal growth. And so we have to make sure that we can do that in our town or in our city. And we also have to admit that Charlottesville is a city, not a town.
It's a city. Give me some props for that.
It's as much as I remember when I was younger, big talk about should we revert to town status or not, and it seemed to come up every 15 years or so. But we've passed that point.
So past that point. We've been past that point for so long.
And
I think it's because the old guard wants to remember, the OGs want to remember the sense of intimacy, the quaintness that they experienced growing up. And I hate to say this, and you may disagree with this. Guys, if we're not evolving, we're regressing. And if we don't step forward with our thought process to improve and to get better, that's when trouble starts to happen. Your thoughts, Sena Magill?
We have to make sure we keep a careful balance. We are going to have to increase a certain amount of density. I'm not 100% sure how that should happen. Again, there's a lot I have to learn.
Yeah.
And again, I'm willing to hear from a lot of different people. I know part of what pulls people to Charlottesville for the tourism industry is the preservation of our historic areas, and we have to somehow balance that with the growth of a city. And again, that also comes into working with both UVA and Albemarle County, and making sure we're working very closely as best we can with those entities about that growth. Because without their working together, it's going to set everything kilter.
Right. It takes the scales of justice and gets them unbalanced.
And again, we're not in this alone. We're in this together. And we need to be making sure we're working together on that.
Good answer. Caitlin Mancini, thank you for watching us. I see you, Walter Slosky from the Shebeen. Thank you, Walter Slosky from the Shebeen, for joining us here on the show. Sena Magill, our guest, she's running for Charlottesville City Council. My objective here is to introduce you to a council candidate in a very approachable and friendly setting, so you get to know what she stands for. It's not gotcha journalism, it's asking fair questions, so you are more educated on where you want to go with your vote. I also tremendously encourage everyone that's watching that it's the June 11th primary, that's going to go a very long way with determining who is going to be on council. I think that is undoubtedly safe to say. I have to ask you, and I threw this to you off air. I don't want anybody to think that I'm surprising her with a question. I have to ask you about statues, about parks, and about streets, and about moving statues from parks, about rebranding parks, and about rebranding streets. We will start open-ended. Sena Magill.
Yes.
Statues, parks, and streets in Charlottesville, Virginia. Open-ended question. Your thoughts?
Well, honestly,
yes.
I am for moving the statues.
Okay.
When all of this first came to my attention, I want to say it was possibly 2016.
Okay.
It was 2016. At first, I was sitting here going, wait a second, $20,000 to move a statue?
Right.
I can use that to get someone housing. I can use that to help somebody. I can use that
I shared
for
that
real.
same sentiment.
And then I started thinking about it. Number one, monuments are not history. History books are history. Monuments are idolizing and
Glorifying.
thank you.
Yes.
So first you need to separate that out. And when you have members of our city telling us that when they walk past this glorifying, idolizing statue of somebody who fought to own their family, you have to respect how that makes them feel. That in honoring that person who never had anything to do with Charlottesville, walking through a public park to a public downtown library, you have to step back and say, how does that change the underlying dynamic if we keep that up with this statue overlooking people? The statue of a person who fought to own this person's family. How can we say, oh, you're equal? We think of you as equal when we keep that statue there. I love the idea of rebranding Preston Avenue to the Preston family who gave so many scholarships to the area. I like the idea of, I also think we should probably sit back and go through all of it. We do need to think about it from the local business perspective as well, of how much money that could potentially cost a business.
With the address change.
With changing all of that.
Yeah.
But I think there's ways of publicly then going around and rebranding the name to people of the same name. Growing up here, I don't know what most of the streets are named after. They just are what they are. But I do know that that doesn't mean other people don't know what they mean or who they're named after. So if we go through and we look at all of the street names at once, one, if we choose to rename streets then, that way it's done all at once and the maps are done all at once versus piecemeal, which costs more money over the long run. But we could also look at the idea of all of them rebranding to people in our community who we respect as a community.
Good answer. Sizzle reel that, Harris. You're getting props on that. James Watson giving you some big time props on that that answer right there. And that's a tough one. Here's how I stand, and we'll continue this conversation. Initially, I was of the mindset where the statues that are in these parks, if we take them out of the parks, we can't change our ugly history. Taking this statue away from the park is not going to change what happened, from a slavery standpoint. It's not going to change the fact that Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. It's not going to change the fact that Thomas Jefferson had a relationship with a slave, an intimate relationship with a slave. We all know that. And then I also was, shocked with the sticker price of $20,000+ just to take a statue from a park and put into a museum. 20 G's? For me, I was like, why don't we allocate that money to the school system? Why don't we help give teachers more money from a payment standpoint than spend 20 G's to move a statue out of a park? Now, because we are humans and not chimpanzees, we're able to think and evolve our thinking as opposed to have linear thinking and say, oh, this is what I thought 1 year ago, I'm not going to change my thinking whatsoever. We're able to learn from the market, learn from our community, and learn from people whether we agree or disagree with them. Now, because I have evolved with my thinking, I see the pain, I see the hurt, I see the demoralization and the destruction that has been caused by these statues. And I think for us to heal potentially as a community, the healing is going to have to start with the moving of these statues. And I think where it's going to start is moving the statues to perhaps a museum where they're better off, as opposed to a public park where people can see them every day, and it could potentially demoralize or depress or anger people that do see them. That's how my thinking has changed. Talk to me a little bit about that topic right there, Sena.
About the moving?
Yeah, about just in general what we're talking about with this.
Sorry, my brain is getting a little fuzzy here. Yes, they need to be moved. You can't. Once I've thought we should have like a park of our glorious mistakes, where, we shouldn't be forgetting our mistakes of history. But at the same time, again, statues are not about history. They're about honoring and glorifying. And when we choose to honor and glorify somebody, and that walking past that hurts people, we can't. Symbols are powerful. Symbolism is very powerful. And we can't expect people to feel like they are equal if we're holding these statues in reverie, looking down on people. If we are idolizing somebody who fought to own people, who have a certain skin color, how can you expect somebody of that skin color to walk past that statue and feel equal in this city?
Good answer. Good answer. Really good answer. You've given us 75 minutes, and I'm truly grateful for your time. We'll close down.
Okay.
I think your willingness to come on the show when you weren't feeling well speaks to your character, because we've been promoting this interview, and we've been excited for it, and I appreciate you for doing that.
Made a commitment.
Yeah, and I understand, and I would do the same. And that means a lot. Not everybody would do that, by the way. And
try not to pass out
trust
right now.
me, I've been in that position. I'm going to ask you one last question.
Sure.
And the question is why should someone vote for Sena Magill? And before you answer that and interact with that camera, I'll thank the sponsor so you have an opportunity to think of the answer. And you already know the answer already, I know. But guys, let's thank Greenberry's Coffee. For almost 30 years, this husband and wife tandem have made a global empire. And it started here in Charlottesville, the McIntyre Office Parks and Barracks Road Shopping Center. I'm truly grateful for Greenberry's for being a part of the program. Roy Wheeler Realty Company, a trusted real estate firm. Michael Guthrie and his team are doing big-time things, and you don't have the legacy and the longevity of Roy Wheeler without doing things right. Scott Wagner, Chiropractic and Sports Medicine, thank you for being a part of the show. Intrastate Pest and Service Companies, Animal Connection and Patty Bowden, a small business owner, an entrepreneur, a person who's doing things right. Caring for Creatures, a new addition to the program. It's a charity. Mary Burkholtz has spent over 30 years of her life giving her time and energy to the animals that are on the kill list of shelters up and down the East Coast. She takes the animals that are on the kill list. These are the animals that nobody wants. And she welcomes them to her sanctuary in Fluvanna County. And every single day, Mary Burkholz has to raise $1,000, $365,000 a year to be able to feed, house, protect these animals. And animals mean a lot to me. I had 3 dogs. Last week had to put down, my dog of 17 years. And I don't even want to get into this topic because
we had to put one of our cats down yesterday.
I don't even want to get in. Sena Magill, what makes you an amazing candidate for Charlottesville City Council? We'll turn this into a sizzle reel, and we'll close on this note.
Well, I really care about this community. I grew up here. I want my daughter to stay here. I want this to be a great city for everyone. And I'm willing to admit when I don't know something. I'm willing to admit if I'm wrong about something. And I'm willing to learn.
Good answer. I like that. Highlight reel that, Harris. I'm grateful for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. I hope
you
thought it was fair.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Harris Tolbers, our director, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your help, Harris. Judah Wickhauer and Lauren Linsky, thank you for making the show possible. Today's Friday, so we're back in the saddle on Monday. And on Monday, it's an exciting guest. It's Antoine Brinson. He is an entrepreneur from Culinary Concepts, AB Culinary Concepts. He's basically creating a business that takes folks that are unemployed, educates them on business in front of the house and back of the house from a kitchen standpoint, and then helps position them from a job standpoint into restaurants around the area. So Antoine Brinson, I'm so excited to spotlight you, pal. I love spotlighting entrepreneurs on this program, as you guys know, because I'm one myself and I understand the importance of the small business owners in the community. I want to thank Sena Magill for joining us. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show. We close the show the same way. Charlottesville, Virginia, please embody the golden rule. And Charlottesville, Virginia, please be good to each other. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday at 12:30 on the I Love CVille Show. You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
I'm truly grateful for your time. I know
Thank
you
you.
weren't feeling your best.
Oh, yeah.
But it went well. You're getting a lot of props here. I don't know if you're getting texts from people saying you did a great job. I mean, I think...
No, this is just a friend of mine who...
You have a lot of friends, I can see.
Actually, most of the people you're reading off, I don't know.
Really? That's even better.